Hey, Pretty Girl Club. I guess this is kind of a bonus video today, but I just got, well, actually, I'm not even done watching the Who the F Did I Marry series here on YouTube. It's about this TikTok creator who went viral because the guy that she married, he had been lying about everything from his name to his job to his history to where he had lived. And I actually think that every married woman at some point will have a who the F did I marry moment. It may not be as extreme as that woman in the TikTok videos, but I do believe that men are naturally socialized to lie because society values men based on what they have to offer. It values men based on what they have to produce. And so if a man has failed in life and he has, no social status, he has nothing going for him really, he doesn't have anything exceptional about him, he knows that when it comes to the dating market, if he can't produce anything, like if he has absolutely nothing about him that makes him attractive, men have no choice, or they feel like they have no choice, but to rely on lies. And by the way, exaggeration and omission, those are forms of lies. So when I say exaggeration, it'll be something like, saying you got your master's degree when you only have a bachelor's, saying that you have a PhD when you only got your master's. And then omission is when you purposely leave out information so that the girl, so that she's operating based off of limited info. So you don't tell her that you never blocked your exes. You don't tell her that you still text women that you used to fuck. You don't tell her that you have fake Instagram accounts or fake YouTube accounts, fake Facebook accounts and stuff so that you can try to attract other women. You don't tell her that you are still on dating apps and that you never deleted your dating app. So it's lying by omission. I actually believe that most women who get into marriages and stuff, they won't really see the guy's full true character until years into the relationship, because if the woman, like, I guess it kind of depends on the woman and how many questions she asks and how she follows up and stuff. But depending on how brainwashed the woman is and depending on how bad that woman wants romance, her skills for like background checking and stuff, she may not do that, because if you're a woman who has a pure heart, or if you are someone who, you're not used to being scammed, you're not used to being lied to at an extreme level, maybe you come from a very loving background, maybe you come from a very religious background. By the way, I fit into this category myself. I came from a very loving, very religious type of background. So once I got older and got out of college, which was when I really started doing like casual dating and stuff like that, it wasn't really until like my late 20s, because I didn't even believe in interacting with a lot of men because I saw that as being slutty and, because of my Christian background. But as soon as I started interacting with a lot of men, kind of casually roster dating and stuff, that was when I started to see how much of liars guys can really be. And for me personally, I was more susceptible. Like I was more likely to fall for it because I was not used to guys having malicious intentions or guys feeling the need to lie and exaggerate. Or I would forgive the guy for a lie if it was like a very small lie. So I remember one time I was dating this guy and he said that he owned his house. So that's not a big deal because I never asked him about his house or whatever, or never required that. But he was just casually talking about it. He was like, oh yeah, I bought this house last year, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple weeks later, he happened to bring it up again and he forgot the lie that he had told me a few weeks prior. And so he actually said the truth, which was, oh yeah, I'm just renting this house right now until I can purchase another one. So that's an example of a lie. And in my mind, I saw that as a small lie. But looking back, I'm glad that I did not, that it didn't work out with that guy or whatever, because that is an example of how guys start off with lies. Usually the only way a man can really entice a woman is through his lies, because the average guy does not make $100,000 a year. 90% of men in the US make less than 100K. So if he's only making 50K, 60K, 70K, and he knows that most girls want a guy who makes over 100K or who makes more than six figures, then he's more likely to lie or to try to say, oh yeah, I do day trading on the side. Or, that's another really big thing that guys love to lie and exaggerate about. They will lie and say that they do day trading. They will say that they have like all of these investments in their retirements. So now, after dealing with this so often, I have learned that unless I see whatever it is, like unless I can see your actual account and I can see you log in, don't send me a screenshot because those can easily be faked. Unless I sit there in front of you and watch you log into your bank account or logging into your TD Ameritrade account or your brokerage account, unless I'm seeing you log in, I no longer believe it. And same thing goes with money. I actually believe that about 90% of guys are lying or exaggerating about how much money they have, or if they are telling the truth about the money that they make, I believe a lot of guys are actually omitting information about how much debt they have or how much money they spend each month. So I actually am not easily impressed anymore by, let's say a guy has a nice suit on, or he has a nice watch on, or he happens to have a nice car or something. I am not so impressed by that anymore because I understand that for a lot of material things that you get, a lot of people are going into debt to have those things. A lot of people are living in houses right now that are in foreclosure, or, I've known guys who they have had a tax lien put on their house, and I've dealt with guys where it's like they owe money to the bank, or they owe money to the IRS, or they have all of these credit card bills, or their car is getting repossessed. And so you guys saw my last episode talking about how a lot of guys will use money and emotions to trap you. So he will use the money as kind of the initial way of attracting you. He will show up in a nice suit. He will say that he works in a particular field when maybe he is not as high up as he says. Like, I've had guys say stuff like, oh, I am one of the top managers, or I'm a project manager, or, oh, I am a computer engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer. They'll try to say something that kind of sounds better than what they actually do, or they'll say things like, oh, I'm an accountant, when in reality he works in like a financial call center or something like that. And by the way, no shade if you have those jobs, or if your brother has that type of job, but I have noticed that the average guy actually does lie or exaggerate about things like his credentials, because for most guys, they know that you're probably not going to check what that guy says. A lot of guys know that whatever you're checking on him, it's not going to go farther than a Google search. And this is why a lot of guys will also use a fake name. So like, for example, instead of going by his first name, maybe he will go by his middle name, or maybe his name is James Doe and he goes by JD. So a lot of guys, they actually will use that tactic so that when you Google him, or when you look up court documents and stuff, his name won't pop up because you don't actually know his government name. I'm probably going to tell some of the story times in Patreon, but I personally have dealt with being scammed or having like money stolen from me and stuff like that because of guys using fake names, or, they have a whole fake backstory and I don't know. I mean, that used to happen more so when I was younger, like in my teens and 20s. But I actually do believe that usually guys, when it comes to money, for the most part, he's probably lying, or he is probably making it sound a lot better than what it really is. And even if a guy does have money, like let's say a guy tells me I'm a millionaire. Okay, well, unless you are directly spending your $1 million on me, it's the same as you not having it, because your millions, they do not affect my life in any way. It's not changing my lifestyle in any way. It's not being spent on me in any way. So it doesn't matter. It may as well not exist. You simply saying it means absolutely nothing to me. You're not going to be able to dangle money in front of me like a carrot. Like, if the guy is not directly spending that money on me, then I just assume that he doesn't have it. I've also noticed that a lot of guys will lie so that they can get you into a relationship, or they will lie and say, oh, I've always wanted marriage, I've always wanted kids, or, I've always wanted to provide for a woman. They will say basically what you want to hear so that they can get what they want. And so this is why I actually think that, I understand why some women don't tell a guy what they want, because they know, okay, if I tell him I want a protector and a provider and a man who's not red pill, then he's probably going to say tomorrow, I'm a protector and provider and a man who's not red pill, because you basically just told him the answer. You just told him what to say. You told him what you wanted. And so you're basically giving him a playbook on how to manipulate you. And by the way, this Decentering Men series is actually not supposed to be like so you can hate men or be super angry or mad or anything. This is really just supposed to help you to realize that no, you're not crazy. No, it's not that you're unwanted, or that, you just didn't get chosen. No, it's not that like you're just bad at picking. It's that the picks themselves have some defects. I mean, because everybody has flaws, right? We have flaws as women, and so men have flaws as well. But I've noticed that a lot of guys, they try to focus on the woman's flaws because we do live in a society that's very patriarchal. So the whole purpose of this series is really to just validate women, and it's to help you guys realize that you're not crazy. It's to help you to gain some balance so that you can make the best decision for you. Notice how I don't tell women what to do. I may tell you guys what I do, but I don't tell you, hey, you should get married, or you shouldn't get married, or you should have kids, or you should be child free. All I do is I place the information in front of you, or I kind of talk about my perspectives in front of you, and then I let you make your own decisions. So whatever you feel is the best for your mental health is what you should be doing. And also, don't take my word for it, because I'm not the end all be all. Look at your own experiences. Look at your own memories. Look at the types of things that you see around you. Look at the men who you see around your friends and family. Take a look at the world around you, and that can also help you to inform your decision. Do you see more men in your circle who are very high value, upstanding, virtuous men? Or do you tend to see more men who are kind of similar to what I described in these videos? That's for you to decide. But I've also noticed that a lot of guys, they do not prioritize being faithful and loyal and loving and virtuous in the same way that women do. So because men on average do not value you being virtuous, like for example, if you're a virtuous woman and you're ugly to him, he doesn't care how nice you are because you're ugly in his eyes. So all I'm saying is, okay, so then why should we be obligated to have a guy who's ugly then too? Because he offers us a little bit of money. Why do I have to spend my life with him? How about he can just take me on a date or take me out somewhere, and then after he's done taking me out, then I leave, as opposed to I'm going to revolve my whole life around him in order to prove that I'm not shallow. You get to decide what your priorities are. Is your priority making money or having a guy with money, or is your priority your mental health? Is your priority having a guy who's attractive, or having someone young, someone old, someone black, someone white, or just being single, or just having your own happiness above all else? You get to decide what your priorities are. But I think that a good question to ask married women is, if you have any married women in your family or in your circle, ask them if they ever had a moment with their husband where they were thinking, who the F did I marry? Did they ever have that sort of moment? Or did they ever have a moment where they felt trapped in the marriage? And if so, what was it about? What happened? Because a lot of times, the deeper you dig into the marriages of those around you, the more bullshit you begin to see. So I'm not saying that those women aren't happy, because I believe that happiness is actually very subjective. So for me, being happy means having peace. But for some people, being happy just means not being alone. Or being happy just means being booed up, or having a man laying in your bed at night. Or it means having a father figure in the home, even if he is literally just sitting there like a bump on a log, not emotionally investing. So different women have different definitions of happiness. There are also a lot of articles online that talk about how a lot of men actually struggle with deceiving themselves, lying to themselves. So for example, these are the men who, let's say they're a cheater, and then they'll say, oh, I hate cheaters, I hate liars, I hate scammers, I hate guys who are narcissists. Meanwhile, that guy is what he hates. So there are so many articles that talk about how a lot of men are dealing with this cognitive dissonance and living out the reality that he is not who he says he is. So if he says he's a high value man or whatever, he's dealing with the fact that, no, I'm actually not high value, because when I go out into the real world, no woman is like checking for me or wants to be around me, and I'm socially awkward. I've also noticed that a lot of men on average are not as good at self-regulation. So this is why we have problems with men looking at other women, still flirting with other women, having poor boundaries, not telling his ex, hey, you can't call me at 11 p.m. or hey, my baby mama, you shouldn't be talking to me about anything other than the children. So men in general have had a lot of issues with self-regulation. And by the way, this is all races, all socioeconomic statuses. Look at the men. Let's talk about socioeconomic status, because a lot of people think marrying a rich man solves everything. Let's look at the cheating rates of rich men. Let's look at the cheating rates of famous men. Like I said before on previous episodes, a lot of guys, they're not out here pursuing that level of fame and that level of wealth so that they can just stay faithful and just sit in the house and just be with their wives all day and just hang around with their kids. No, a lot of guys seek after money and power so that they can exploit the women. A lot of guys seek after money, fame, and power so that they can finally have that power dynamic of, having women begging for him, or having women like simping, for lack of better words, simping over him. So a lot of guys are seeking that power specifically so they can dominate women or so they can dominate others. So this whole narrative that, oh, you just have to get a man who is rich and altruistic and virtuous and faithful and loyal. I'm not saying that those types of things don't exist. I just believe that for all of those qualities to exist in one single man, that is so much of a unicorn to the point where you literally have a better chance of success at starting a business. You have a better chance of success at starting your own multi-million-dollar business. You have a better chance at getting struck by lightning, for God's sakes, than finding a man who has all of those exact qualities and he lives in your city and he's attracted to you and he has no kids, no baggage. Come on. It's great to have hope, but I like to balance hope with reality. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to guys lacking virtue, that is so common to where there are actual cultural phrases that are talking about that. They say things like boys will be boys, or I'm a man, ain't I? Or I'm here, ain't I? That sort of talking point where it's like, hey, as long as you don't cheat me or beat me, then you're a good man. All of those phrases and cultural idioms that we have, those all come from the collective behaviors of men across the board. So I know that there may be exceptions, but the exceptions don't make the rule. So I'm not going to base my life on the exception. I'm going to base my life on where I have the most probability to succeed. Also, I think that what a lot of people won't talk about is how a lot of men are seeking after the power and the fame and the success so that they can have more sex. That's really what it is. Why do you pursue that VP job? So that you can have a nice lifestyle, which includes having a beautiful woman. Why do you buy the car? It's to impress a woman. Why do you buy these nice suits that kind of show off your muscles and stuff like that? It's likely so you can impress a woman or attract a woman. Why do you have to go to the gym and like lift weights and grunt really loudly so that all of the women in the whole gym can hear you grunting when you just lifted 250 pounds. It's so you can attract a woman. It's so you can increase your chances of sex. And I know that a lot of men are obsessed with sex because men will literally start humping the couch. They will hump cups. They will hump towels and dolls and blow up dolls and stuff. And in some cases, even children or animals or other men or, so it's like, okay, if these guys are just slinging it everywhere, or, just going into anything that has a hole, why should I center my whole life around someone who behaves that way? And if you come into my comments with the whole not all men, nothing I say on YouTube, nothing anyone says on YouTube, I hope, is talking about all people. I am talking about probability. You are more likely to meet a man who is like I describe in all of these videos versus meeting a man who is the opposite. So if you are a woman watching this and you feel like your man is the exception, that's great, but the exceptions don't make the rule. Just because you may have found somebody that maybe makes you happy and stuff, that doesn't mean that everybody else is doing the exact same thing. And there is also qualities. There are qualities about the man you're with, even if you are happy, there are qualities about him that you dislike. And I dare you to check me. Who gon' check me? That is fact. There's no such thing as a perfect human being. So no matter what man you're with, you are going to see flaws in him. There's no such thing as a man who's flawless. So yes, I know you love your husbands. I know you love your brothers and your fathers and cousins and baby daddies, but there's no such thing as a man without flaw. And I'm just talking about the most common flaws that are happening in regards to men. So when it comes to this woman's TikTok story on who the F did I marry and kind of uncovering the lies as the months went on, I actually believe that no matter what guy you're with, you're going to uncover things about him as the months and years go on. It may not be as extreme as that girl's story, but you are going to uncover things about him. Maybe he didn't tell you that he had a $20,000 car note that he has to pay off, or maybe he didn't tell you about some credit card that he charged up, or maybe he didn't tell you that he actually has children and, he lied about that, or he told you he had one kid when he has two kids. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.